Hello, this is Catherine from Accelerated Reader, reading books for you. Today I will be reading Chapter 11 from The Bucket by D.J. Cattrell, illustrated by Mei Lee. Before I begin reading, I would like to give a big thanks to the author for sending me this book to read on my channel. In the description below, I've included links where you may find and purchase this book. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Chapter 11. The Minotaur lifted himself to his feet and went to one of the huge doors. "You may rest in here, Rachel the Intrepid, and your friend." Robin looked up. "Robin, my name is Robin." The Minotaur looked Robin up and down, bent close into him and sniffed. "You smell of fear, boy." Robin smiled weakly and edged backwards. "Do I? Oh, that might be because you are bloody scary." The Minotaur laughed. "Yes, I suppose I am. Are you hungry, little man?" And with that he swung open the massive door. Rachel and Robin both stood looking at the darkness inside. They had both expected another cave, and they were right. It was another cave, but it was pitch black. Cobulus scampered through Robin's legs and dived straight into the darkness. But even with their ability to see better in the dark, it seemed to them that Cobulus had just been eaten by blackness. "I don't suppose you have a torch?" asked Robin. The Minotaur clapped his hands, and the floor of the cave lit up with millions of tiny green lights that in turn began to light up the room. The little lights rose to the ceiling. "We do not need fires here, boy." The cave was beautiful. It was filled with sculptures of different animals, some easily recognizable, others that were clearly of things they had never seen before, or at least not from their world. There was an incredibly ornate table in the center of the room, and a huge chair at the end of it. The table had very odd-looking tools on it, with really large handles, but very small bits of metal on the ends of them. On the floor of the cave around the walls were what appeared to be huge balls of fur. Cobulus appeared and jumped into the chair. "Touch anything, Cobulus, and I'll squash you like the bug that you are." The Minotaur turned to Rachel and Robin. "This is my home. Welcome." The ceiling sparked with flying lights illuminating the entire cave. On the table amongst the tools sat another bucket, just like the one hanging from Rachel's side. Rachel was curious, but was too polite to ask about it straight away. "May I ask what we are supposed to call you? The Minotaur seems a bit formal." The Minotaur laughed again. "I need no other name, child. I am Minotaur. I like the name." Robin piped up, trying to be helpful. "How about Minnie for short?" The Minotaur gave Robin a hard stare and growled. Rachel rolled her eyes. "Does the idiot never stop?" she thought to herself. "Maybe not then," said Robin, feeling a little uncomfortable. Cobulus stood up on the Minotaur's chair. "Hungry now! Cobulus need food now." Rachel looked for somewhere to sit down. The Minotaur pulled a cloth off the table from under which appeared a huge array of unusual fruits. "I was going to eat before Cobulus came with his tricks again. Help yourselves." Robin wasted no time or manners and grabbed a handful of what looked like blue grapes and stuffed them into his mouth. These are really good. I am so hungry I could eat a horse." Cobulus was already helping himself and sat back in the huge chair munching on a large red berry. Rachel waited. "Tuck in, girl," the Minotaur said, and threw her a vaguely square green thing. Rachel looked at the thing. "How do I—" The Minotaur took one himself and tapped the top of it, which then opened with leaves curling down its sides to reveal a soft orange fruit. "Just tap it and unwrap it." Rachel did so and took a bite. It tasted of vanilla. One of the big fur balls rolled over to her and nudged the back of her legs, and then pushed the back of her knees, causing her to fall onto it. Startled, she sank down as it wrapped itself around her. She felt more comfortable than she had ever in her life. It was soft, warm, and welcoming, and she, being tired, welcomed its warmth. The Minotaur laughed again. "It likes you. That is good." It was like wearing a soft, warm living mattress, and it was purring. "Are there more like you, Minotaur?" Robin said, continuing to stuff fruit into his mouth and sighing on the chewing. When he saw Rachel sitting on a fur ball, he looked for one to sit on for himself. But as he walked towards one, its in turn rolled slowly away from him. Because there was a Minotaur in the Greek history stories, you know. Robin shrugged his shoulders at the fur ball and walked towards another one. That slowly rolled away from him as well. He walked towards another that backed off and then growled. "What's going on? Don't they like me or something?" The Minotaur looked at Robin curiously. "They don't trust you yet, boy. The fur has instincts." Robin was outraged. "They don't like me? We've only just met." He walked over to the big chair where Cobulus was nibbling at his berry. "Budge over, Shorty." Cobulus jumped onto the arm of the chair and continued munching happily. Robin carried on eating and asking questions. Because the Minotaur in those stories lived in a maze and ate children. Rachel was very surprised by this. "You, Robin McRacker? You know Greek history?" Robin grimaced. "Do I? Mom made me study it for years. She said it would be useful one day. No one else I know had to study it. I always thought that was weird." Rachel looked at the Minotaur. "I don't want to seem rude, Minotaur, but may I ask, was that you? Are you the Minotaur in the stories?" The Minotaur walked over to his chair and tipped it up. Robin slid off it, finding himself sitting under the table with a sore bottom. "Ow!" he said, and crawled out from under it. Several fur balls rolled away from him. The Minotaur said, "Yes, Rachel the Intrepid, I am he. But I never ate children. Tempting though it has been sometimes. I am a herbivore. That was a story put about my good friend Theseus to keep the children away from me while I worked. I even built a maze to keep the little monsters from finding me. But all I ended up doing each day after that was to rescue them and take them back to the entrance of the maze. And then their parents would tell me off for making the maze in the first place. Most human children are as stupidly curious as monkeys. It was very annoying." Cobulus laughed and said, "Minotaur, very old. Cobulus, older. Cobulus, drink now." And with that he jumped off the chair and onto the table. He lifted a decorated silver goblet to his lips and drank. He drank and drank whilst the others watched his small belly expand in a most unnatural way. The goblet was almost as big as he was. Being a goblet meant for a minotaur. Kobolos put down the goblet after an age and burped, then sank onto the table in a heap and fell asleep. "Peace at last," said the minotaur. "The griffins brought both me and the koboli here a long time ago. I make the portal buckets for them, and they fill them with their magic. It's what I do, make things for griffins here in this cave." Rachel began to understand. "You made my bucket, didn't you?" The minotaur sat up straight. "Yes, it was one of my first. I made that one a very long time ago. The dragons want it badly. Dragons are very bad. I hate black dragons. They are so uncivilized." Rachel asked, "Do you know why I have been brought here?" The minotaur became very serious. "Yes, I do. Come and sit with me, Rachel." Rachel was 10 years old and had not sat on anyone's lap for a very long time. But even though the minotaur looked huge and fierce with his horns and constantly flaming red eyes, something about him felt warm and safe. She stood up and went to the minotaur and climbed onto his knee. She looked at him expecting an answer. "You are here to take back your sister, Sarah, the adventurer, and to stop the dragons from destroying your world. This is what your sister told me a long time ago." Well, a long time ago for you anyway. She said the unicorn told her you would come at the right time. It is a lot to ask of such a young, small human. "I like you, Rachel the Intrepid, and I would like to help you, but I rarely leave my cave, and I have too much work to do for the griffins. Your sister has been waiting and hoping that you would come for a long time." Rachel leaned into the minotaur, feeling very tired. "Yes, Minotaur," she said, yawning. "I think I'm beginning to understand that now. That bucket," she said, pointing sleepily at the one on the table and curling her hair around her fingers. The minotaur followed her thought train like it was his own. "Yes, that bucket is broken. A bad sorceress called the Esmeralda broke it secretly when your sister arrived. Or maybe Sarah broke it herself. That Esmeralda woman is one human you don't want to meet. She has a streak of cruelty even worse than the dragons. But yes, it's Sarah's bucket." Rachel let this roll around her mind for a while. She closed her eyes and said, "I thought it might be. I really need to sleep now." She opened her eyes briefly and glanced over at Robin, who had found a large rug in one corner of the cave and was already asleep on it, dribbling. Rachel closed her eyes and slept in the huge arms of the Minotaur. The Minotaur smiled and closed his eyes. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for Chapter 12. Don't forget to like and subscribe. In the description below, I've included links where you may find and purchase this book.